I want to, first of all, thank the Half King and everybody here that has been incredibly friendly. Sebastian Younger, who became a friend of mine, so he has given me the honor to allow us to have this event here tonight. He's not here, but he's present anyway. And I want to thank C-SPAN for coming here. You guys are the best. And for all the logistics and things that you're doing to make this happen. And finally, I want to thank the publisher. I'm very moved by the publisher of this book. It's my own university. So yeah, I didn't know that I was going to get emotional about this. But, Susan Kerth is here from the university. Thank you, Susan. And I think I'm moved because my university is very humanistic, and they care for this book. This book is about listening. I am a Western woman that listened to the Afghans. And so my university is a very humanistically oriented university that cares for humanistic issues and cares for the understanding between cultures and between the East and the West. And they have helped me immensely through the process because they believe that it's important to reach the hearts of people in the West with this message from the East, this message from the Afghans and about the life of Massud. This is also a book of listening. It's the consequence of listening. When I began this project, I thought, how can I do this? And I thought I should listen and listen and listen and never stop listening. And I spent 4 years of my life listening to this. But anyway, before we begin, please give her an applause to Susan Kerth from Webster University Press, which is my university in St. Louis, Missouri. Please, because I mean, they really deserve it. I'm going to talk from my heart. I cannot see another way to talk about this experience and the book and Massud. And I'm going to talk, and then I would like to open a conversation, which means that any questions you all have, I am thirsty for that. And I think I hope this book opens, and this story of Massud opens a conversation everywhere in the world, not only the West, but also the East, about why a Massud and what was his quest and what was his goal and who the Afghans are and what were they fighting for, and a lot of other things, including the culture of the Afghans and are the Afghans our friends? Who are these people that we have so far away, but somehow through the life of Massud they become so close to us. I am from Argentina. My name is Marcela. The story began because one friend in Los Angeles invited me to watch a video. The video is called Massud l'Afghan, and it was done by a French director, a French filmmaker called Christophe de Ponfilly, who was compelled over and over to visit Massud in the northeastern Afghanistan. I should give you some details, historical details. Massud was placed in the Panjshir Valley, which is the northeastern area of Afghanistan, and led the resistance against the Soviet occupation from I would say, from the 1979-80 to the end of that decade. And then there was a period of in the 90s of a government that was, a coalition, I would say what is called a third world coalition government in Kabul, with a lot of infighting, but that's something complex that happened in Kabul in the 90s. And then after that, Massud found himself with the invasion of the Taliban, and he had to begin to fight again to liberate his country against what he called intolerance. The Taliban, and of course everything behind the Taliban, Al-Qaeda and all these extremist groups that invaded Afghanistan. Just to give you a background of the time frame. When I saw the video, the Pomfigi video that a friend of mine introduced me, I can only say that I felt something in my heart. It's sometimes I think the heart has reasons that the mind doesn't understand. But I should say that, you know, I felt something by looking at Massud and the people that were his followers. And I couldn't explain why, but, you know, in the end, that led me to do this work about Massud. And I should also say that when I finished the project, when I finished collecting stories and documenting this and designing the book, I realized that what I felt in that second that I watched the video and I watched Massud and the Afghans is exactly what the book is. I cannot explain why, but what I felt in that second, it seems to me that is the book. So I was very moved, and I thought, what should I do to get to the essence of Massud? His name is Ahmad Shah Massoud. So anyway, and he, as I said, he's been the main resistance leader in Afghanistan for 23 years until they killed him on the 9th of September, 2 days before the 11th. He has not been told very much about this, but the truth of the matter is that Massud was 1 year before the attacks of 11th of September. He was in Paris, and he warned Mr. Bush that an attack will happen to one of our countries. And I should also add that nobody helped Massud at that moment. I wonder what would have happened if people would have helped him, because he warned us. I was telling about you how I began this project, and I thought, how am I going to find the essence of Massud? And I remember the stories I learned when I was a kid from the 1001 Nights, those Eastern stories that I always loved, that have many levels. I always loved them, and I thought maybe through storytelling, maybe through collecting stories, I would find the essence of Massud. Because I didn't feel that Massoud's story was literal. I felt like there were many levels. There was not just the conventional story. So I decided to take that technique, and I began to collect stories. It was hard to take the trust of the Afghans. I began, trying to figure it out, to get close to the Afghans. And it was not easy for them to, let's put it this way, there was a door. The door wasn't open to me right away. I realized later, I went to Washington, D.C., I interviewed Afghans that came in a delegation to this country. I went to Nevada to interview another commander of Massud. I did, a couple of trips, but then I also interviewed by phone. I did all kinds of, ways to interview people and ask them to tell me anecdotes, stories, so I could find through those stories who this man really was. I can tell you a story of when I was in Washington, D.C. I remember waiting for 3 days in a lobby trying to get interviews with the Afghans. And I was sitting in a lobby for 3 days, and the Afghans were coming like this and passing by. And I was almost in tears. I thought, I came to Washington, D.C. for nothing, and they're not talking to me. And one day, at the third day, one of the commanders of Massud said, "You are so persistent that I cannot deny you an interview." And there was a moment, it took me a while for them to actually give me the time of the day. And I remember that one of them, Kanuni, who is now in the parliament in Afghanistan, I interviewed him and I asked him a question and I said, "What is it about this man that it makes me come from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C.? I feel something." And I knew at that moment that they were going to open themselves to talk to me. Something, I think they understood that it wasn't that I was interested in just in the politics of Massud, that I wasn't interested in just in, in analyzing the political thing, or that I was interested in Massud himself.